Welcome to my channel. I am new to politics, and here I watch clips just to try to figure out what's going on in the nation. Let's get right into it.
Not only is America about to see a new round of deportations, but some government officials could go to jail.
In fact, according to a new bombshell report from the New York Times, Somalian migrants in Minnesota have defrauded nearly $1 billion in taxpayer-funded benefits under Democrat Governor Walz's leadership.
Do you stand by that claim of calling to Walz?
I think there's something wrong with it. Absolutely, sure.
You don't think that
You have a problem with it? You know what? I think there's something wrong with him.
Wow.
Anybody that would do what he did, anybody that would allow those people into the state and pay billions of dollars out to Somalia.
Wow.
We give billions of dollars to Somalia. It's not even a country because it doesn't function like a country. It's got a name, but it doesn't function like a country. Now, there's something wrong with Walz.
This is about purging people like me from this country.
Okay, so they're trying to delegitimize this fraud investigation as if it's some attack on a community of 192,000 people.
Protected status for Somalia, a designation the country has had since 1991.
We should never use a small community as a scapegoat.
The move would impact more than 700 people in the U.S. and more than 400 Somali migrants in Minnesota, which is a small fraction of the roughly 80,000 Somali Minnesotans.
Well, that could change because apparently they're going to be re-vetting people now.
And we frankly don't need their people coming into our country telling us what to do.
And you're talking about
I'm talking about like Somalia, where you have a congressman goes around telling everybody about our constitution. And
He's talking about Alon
Omar.
Omar.
Came into a country by marrying her brother. Well, if that's true, she shouldn't be a congressman, and we should throw her out of our country.
you understand that if a person commits a crime,
Yeah, a lot of people have been convicted
they face justice.
of this fraud.
And that you don't put that crime on a whole community.
Bombshell ICE sweep in Minneapolis-St. Paul finds 50% of immigrants had committed immigration fraud. 50% of immigrants had committed immigration fraud.
So just to pause it real quick, I'm going to stop and go. I'll try not to stop as much. But how is this possible that, again, I'm new to politics, forgive my ignorance, but how is this possible that, first of all, $1 billion fraud? Like, how is this possible? And then the second thing is fraud. How can you have fraud with the immigration? This is what I don't really understand. In my mind, I would assume that if you're going to allow people into the country, that you would have very strict standards and stipulations.
City of Minneapolis. The city of Ilhan Omar.
Some Somali Minnesotans are among the 80 people charged in connection to the Feeding Our Future fraud scheme, which prosecutors say defendants stole millions of dollars intended to feed hungry children.
But what's even more shocking are the governor of the state's connections to all of this and what could happen to him.
In Minnesota, you have a big Somali population, and they found out that, is it $1 billion? It's $1 billion, I believe,
$1 billion
going to Somalia. And that is going to a terrorist organization.
Out of the country.
Al-Shabaab,
$1 billion out of the.
So the $1 billion in fraud was started by, I guess, a Somali nonprofit or something. And they're finding out so we pretty much sent $1 billion out, first of all, out of America and then to a terrorist organization. I think that's what if I'm wrong, please just comment it down below. Let's keep it going.
Somalia. Why are tax dollars, if you live in Minnesota,
this is so
you're
wild.
going to work, you're working really hard, some of your paycheck is going to benefit,
it's going overseas,
according to this investigation, a terrorist organization.
Including the pandemic aid.
That's exactly right.
So the pandemic aid, this governor not only allowed the riots to go crazy with George Floyd, when the money came flooding in, he had no idea where it was going. When whistleblowers stood up and said, this is fraudulent, this is fake, this money's going to the wrong people, he went after the whistleblowers. That's the investigation. Now, the Justice Department announced new charges last week against a 78th defendant in the Feeding Our Future fraud scheme, which prosecutors say involved more than $250 million in stolen funds alone on our federally funded child nutrition program has already resulted in over 50 convictions.
And they stole from kids, and the governor punished the people who reported it. Listen to this.
Convictions.
So the governor had an opportunity to address this, and you would think that he would take the criticism and
You'd
say,
think so.
I made a mistake. He was on the campaign trail talking about that's what leaders do when he was running for vice president.
I could have been vice president.
But when he was pressed on it, he had this to say.
What's he got to say?
Do you take responsibility for failing to stop this fraud in your state?
Probably not.
Well, certainly I take responsibility for putting people in jail. Governors don't get to just talk theoretically. We have to solve problems. And I will note, it's not just Somalis. Minnesota is a generous state. Minnesota is a prosperous state.
So I understand that it's not just Somalis, but if the Somalis were the ones that were doing the fraud, which was using children as just a fraudulent pawn at this point, that's probably why Trump is cracking. If that's what I'm understanding, that's probably why Trump is cracking down on them. If they're the ones that defrauded the American taxpayers out of $1 billion, that's probably why he's honed in on Somalis. But he is right. He is right that there are a lot of fraudulent migrants walking around here.
Run state, we're AAA bond rated, but that attracts criminals. Those people are going to jail. We're doing everything we can, but to demonize an entire
That's not what's
community on
happening.
the actions of a few, it's lazy. But that's Donald Trump. Deflect, demonize, come up with no solutions.
Trump's
He's not gonna help
deflecting.
fix anything on fraud.
He's deflecting.
It's not that anyone's trying to demonize that group,
But this is his
Somalis.
plan. This is Trump's plan right now.
We're just saying, how did you
Identify.
let it get
Right.
this far?
Yeah.
$1 billion of
Out of the
taxpayer
country.
dollars? Who was in charge of that money?
Tim
Why
Walz
was
was
it
in
sent to another
charge.
country? Why is it benefiting a terrorist organization? You have answers, and you have taxpayers. You have constituents who want to have some answers.
But the worst part about it is what he did to the people that brought it to his attention.
Minnesota Governor Tim Walz has come under fire. Hundreds of social service workers publicly are blaming him for a massive fraud scandal that's been rocking the welfare system.
They're
in the
blaming
state.
him.
Staff at Minnesota Human Services Department say widespread false billing allegedly funneled more than $1 billion in taxpayer funds to nonprofits that are tied to the Somali community. Now, they claim Walz ignored their warnings, even punished whistleblowers. Officials now are still uncovering how deep the fraud went and whether any of the money may have reached terror groups overseas. Investigative correspondent Rich McHugh has been all over the story, really,
and this
from,
guy could have been
from,
running
from
America.
the jump, as
Think
they say,
about
joins
that.
us now. What's the governor's office saying about these new developments?
Yeah, what are they saying about these new developments?
Hi, Connell. Well, we asked, and the governor's office isn't formally commenting on
they're not
these
commenting.
posts that were posted onto X as of yesterday by allegedly hundreds of DHS, Minnesota DHS workers.
Wow.
I'll read some just because they're stunning
This
in
is
the
so
rebuke
crazy.
of Governor Walz. Tim Walz is 100% responsible for massive fraud in Minnesota. We
Wow.
let Tim Walz know of fraud early on, hoping for a partnership in stopping fraud, but no, we got the opposite response.
Now, I can't help but wonder, like, this fraud that's going on, why would he just let it go? They're absolutely right. He is 100% responsible. And then they say they let him know early on. Now, we don't have any proof of that yet, but just to give them the benefit of the doubt, let's just say this is true. And they're saying they're hoping for a partnership in stopping fraud, but no, we got the opposite response. I think he knew that he was trying to cover it up. I think he was hoping that this would just get swept under the rug and it'll go with all the other fraud that's going on in the American system and nobody will ever know. But $1 billion?
That's what regimes do. When you criticize the regime comes in and they put people in jail, they crack down, they fire people.
Continue. Tim Walz systematically retaliated against whistleblowers using monitoring, threats, repression, and did his best to discredit fraud reports.
Wow.
Instead of partnership, we got the full weight of retaliation. It's scary, isolating, and left us wondering who we can turn to. Now, in an interesting development, this afternoon, that account was suspended from X for a period of hours, but then put back online.
Who did
There was a
that?
lot of outcry as a commentary account and under a slightly different name with the same amount of followers.
Weird.
We asked Department of Health Human Services, in Minnesota, to confirm if they are associated with this in any way, and they said they could not. What is not in question
That's
here,
insane.
Connell, is the amount of fraud. We're talking $1 billion in fraud that we've reported on.
If $1 billion was sent out of Minnesota to other countries, forget what it may have been used for. If $1 billion in fraudulent money meant for legal U.S. residents exited the country, What do you think would have been happening to America if these people were running it?
Wrote to former
Would she
Vice
have
President
stopped
Harris
this?
and the DNC multiple times.
Absolutely not. If Kamala Harris and Waltz were doing this, it would be double the country would be overrun, or damn near close to being overrun by illegal migrants right now, because they're doing this. This is just my opinion. Take it with a grain of salt. They're doing this for votes, so that they're trying to set up the Democratic Party so that the next time you have all of these migrants that are here, and then they were trying to make it so that they're able to vote. So now you have all these illegal migrants here that have the right to vote. Who do you think they're going to vote for? The people that's trying to kick them out, the Republicans, and who are trying to clean up the nation? Or the ones that allowed them to come in here to take thousands in benefits for free housing? They got free cell phones. They got free everything just for coming here. Who do you think they're going to vote for?
Warning them about
So they
Governor
knew.
Walz and what they described as his incompetence.
She
fraud
knew.
scandals and retaliation. Here's
And
what they
she was
said.
okay
We tried
with it.
our
She
best
was
to
still
keep
her
the public
VP.
informed. As our tweets are public, maybe Kamala turned a blind eye to fraud like her running mate.
Wow.
Over the years, our messages have not changed. We need fraud to stop in Minnesota.
That is
and there's
crazy.
governance to be restored. Minnesota is currently at
Insane.
the center of a widening fraud scandal. Federal prosecutors continue to unravel this. One of the nation's largest COVID-era fraud cases is so. What happened here, Chris, is that really going back to the COVID days, there's this agency,
been going on for
the
years.
Minnesota Medicaid Housing Stabilization Services Fund. There's also another one, Feeding Our Future. Basically,
It's a whole bunch of
the
groups.
allegations is that all of this money was being stolen by those in the Somali community in the Twin Cities, and it was going back to Somalia. They were funneling it, and then it was ending up in the hands of Al-Shabaab, which is a designated terrorist organization.
Right. And so I did not have Minnesota's welfare funds going to terrorist organizations on my bingo card. And that's what is so frustrating about all this, because we knew Tim Walz was a disastrous VP candidate. He's a dork. He's very annoying. He's supposed to be this everyman, but doesn't know.
We didn't know he was
Not very
stealing.
bright, the president used a different word for that. But the oppo, the research that should have been done during the campaign, should have brought this up. This is a huge bombshell that
He was
not
their
only is
candidate.
does he have all those negative characteristics? Oh, by the way, his government was also funding terrorists in
Right.
Al-Shabaab in Somalia. That should have been devastating for the Harris-Waltz campaign.
We could be talking about
It
$1
was
billion
swept under the rug.
potentially. And
If this has been going on for years, for half a decade, and nobody knew about it, were we ever supposed to know about this?
This is what I'm saying. I don't think we were ever supposed to know. I just said it a few moments ago. I think it was supposed to be swept under the rug, and Waltz was I think Waltz, he probably got a little piece of it. He probably got a little piece from it. Him and Kamala. I think Kamala knew, but she didn't want, she was like, hey, look, we're going to keep this to ourselves and let it blend in with all the other fraud that's going on.
the first time I saw this yesterday was Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent.
Oh,
actually
yeah, they're
posting
going in
about
now.
it.
There's gonna be
He says,
criminal
"We're gonna do an
referrals."
investigation. I mean, this is millions and millions of dollars coming
Billions.
from taxpayers going to this terrorist.
Well, even
allegedly.
Yeah, even the New York Times, which, as we know, is typically very friendly to Democrats, leading with an article, quote, "How Fraud Swamped Minnesota's Social Services System on Tim Walz's Watch."
If the New York Times has it in for you and you're on their team, you know it's over.
In the wake of last week's atrocity, it is more important than ever to finish carrying out the president's mass deportation operation.
And now
America
they're
cannot
gonna be
allow
looking into
millions upon
everybody
millions of
who's in the
unvetted
country with
illegal
permission.
aliens to be rewarded with amnesty after they broke our nation's laws to come here. They must go back to their home countries. It is also essential to immediately address the massive fraud and corruption that has been going on for decades in other aspects of our immigration system, most notably when it comes to asylum claims. Millions of people who have come here under false pretenses are told blatant lies now enjoy temporary legal status.
Yep.
President Trump is ending this scam as well. And I would point out that the Democrats have tried to block this administration from doing so at every turn with lawsuit after lawsuit.
So you have two things happening here at the exact same time. You have massive amounts of American money leaving the country, money which is supposed to be for legal residents, immigrants, American citizens, green card holders, and at the exact same time, you have people coming into the country under entirely false pretenses who aren't supposed to be here and who may in some way be connected to the fraud that's happening. And for a leader to get up and say, oh, these investigations, this doesn't matter because most of the people here are all citizens or all have legal status in some manner. Well, if those people achieve that status in an illegitimate manner, that will now be looked into as well, apparently.
Our truth is that even when it comes to our legal immigration system, past presidents have failed to ensure that all prospective citizens love America, will add value and contribute to our communities, and will assimilate into our culture. Leaders have a duty to defend and advance the interests of their own people, not foreign nationals. Leaders also have a duty to preserve the integrity and character of our nation's national identity. That is why President Trump is more committed than ever to fully restoring American sovereignty by keeping our borders secure, removing all illegal alien invaders, and rebuilding a legal immigration system that makes sense and benefits our country.
Treasury House.
The fact that they're trying to stop Donald Trump. Now, just to keep going forward, I'm not Republican or Democratic. I go with whoever's making the most sense at the time. And right now, it looks like it's old Daddy Trump tonight. Why would the Democrats push so hard for this? To get to why are you trying so hard to have people stay in this country illegally? Not only that, but to continue to bring more people into this country illegally and give them hundreds of millions of dollars with these programs, when we have our own Americans, war veterans, people that really are down on their luck, people who need just extra money with the welfare system because they can't work, maybe they're elderly or whatever. We have all of these places where all this money can go, but they want to continue to bring in illegals, people that don't even love the country. If a war broke out, they probably wouldn't even fight for the country. But yeah, let's keep giving them our money and resources.
Launches probe into Tim Walz's handling of $1 billion fraud and could make criminal referrals. Criminals stole nearly $1 billion, yes. And there are going to be subpoenas. The funds were also used to splurge on the lavish lifestyles of certain nonprofit workers, fancy cars, real estate holdings in other nations. Wow. This says that Tim Walz knew about the fraud. He even admitted that he was aware of suspicious activity since November 2020, but for some reason, I guess, didn't do anything.
What? If he knew about it, this man needs to go. And this is what I'm talking about, man. If you want to get away with highway robbery, just go into politics. If he knew for 5 years and he didn't do anything, he didn't pause for, I'm telling you, he was taking some off the top. Nobody can convince me otherwise. This man, why would you let fraud just go on? Why not just shut it down? Even if you didn't want to make a big fuss about it, just shut it down until you figure out a better system to get, man.
They might denaturalize some American citizens.
This is the denaturalization.
That shouldn't be here.
That became Americans. Are you trying
well, we'll see. I mean, yeah.
They're going to look into it.
That came into our country and they would naturalize maybe through a fight with somebody that didn't know what they were doing. If I have the power to do it, I'm not sure that I do, but if I do, I would denaturalize absolutely.
Wow, they are not happy about that.
What do you mean by reverse migration? It means get people out that are in our country, get them out of here. I want to get them out. We got a lot of people in our country that shouldn't be here, and they came in through Biden, and he was the worst president in the history of our country. But the single biggest thing he did was allow millions of people into our country that shouldn't be here.
Of the 86 that have been indicted so far,
86 indicted.
79 of them are of Somali descent. It's the majority of those who have been indicted to date, and they tell us this number is going to go up.
Okay. Wow. Now, I mentioned at the top this concern about maybe some of the money being transferred to groups overseas. What can you tell us, if anything, about that?
Are they doing it?
So we also have our own reporting on this. We talked to federal sources, both current, former, and also joint terrorism sources, who said, yes, this money makes its way to Somalia, and of that money, there's a cut of it that goes to an Al-Qaeda linked terror group Al-Shabaab. They said we can't do a forensic accounting of it because we don't know once it's over there, but it's it's there for sure. And they were unequivocal about it when we talked to them.
Who knows where this is going to go? I'm definitely going to stay on top of the story. Like, subscribe, just hit that like button. Helps the channel out a lot. I'm going to follow this story and see what happens. Again, I'm just trying to figure out these politics, and just stick around. I'll see you on the next one.